the evening, very much so. Now, the last thing I'll say is that when I ask the question, then I've been asked to give a cue to the timekeeper as to them, they're starting to keeping the time. So what I'll do is once I ask the question, and I'll do a little hand signal, a little point to you, and that's the cue to go ahead from there. Okay? All right. We're here in session 1, and we'd first welcome Rachel Hartenbach, the candidate for Clerk of Court, who has 3 minutes to give an opening statement. Ms. Hartenbach.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming here tonight, and thank you for all the organizations who are hosting this event. For those of you who do not know me, my name...
Let's stop the time. How about if we reset it so she gets a free shot?
Test. Testing? No. Still a no.
I think they're suggesting if you grab the base and pull it forward.
I didn't think
No?
I wasn't allowed to touch it. I was given instructions not to touch. Is that better?
Great.
Great. I'll try again.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. Thank you for all coming here tonight, and thank you to the organizations who are hosting this event. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rachel Hartenbach, and I'm running for Clerk of Court. A little bit of background about me. I am a family person. I am married. I'm a mother to 2 beautiful girls and 1 granddaughter. I'm a proud resident of Middlesex County and have been for the last 25 years. I began my career with the clerk's office in 2012, where I've dedicated the last 9 years of my life to serving the citizens here. I was fortunate enough to learn under the experienced leadership of former clerks Peggy Walton and Lynn Dunleavy. While working under Ms. Dunleavy, I was promoted to Chief Deputy Clerk. And through the Career Development Program, I became the first Master Chief Deputy Clerk for Middlesex in 2018. I qualified as interim clerk on April 1st of this year, and I'm currently serving in that capacity. Many people are unaware of all of the services offered by the clerk's office, and I wasn't either until I began working in the office. The Code of Virginia lists more than 800 responsibilities of the clerk, many of which are complex and challenging. The clerk serves as a recorder of deeds, a probate judge, issues marriage licenses, judgments, and is the court administrator for all civil and criminal court cases filed in circuit court. The clerk creates and maintains all court files and records, prepares court orders, and everyone's favorite jury list. 2020 has taught us many things, and one thing that we learned was the importance of remote access. I am currently working with the Library of Virginia for a grant that could total more than $40,000. Part of this grant will be dedicated to digital imaging of deeds and land records. The balance will go towards restoring county and court records that go back to the 1600s. We are also working with vendors that offer services such as online recordings for land records and e-filing for petitions and lawsuits that are filed. Although I'm running unopposed in this election, I humbly ask for your vote on November 2nd and look forward to serving you as the Clerk of Court for Middlesex County. Thank you.
Next candidate is Dana D. Burnett, who is running for the school board for the Saluda District. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the 4 organizations that are sponsoring this forum tonight. Each of them does much for our community, and this is just one of the many things that they accomplish. I first would like to tell you a little bit about myself. Who is Dana Burnett? Well, he's been married to Linda Burnett for 53 years, or almost 53 years in December. Thank you. In that period of time, we raised 2 daughters, and we now have 6 grandchildren. I'd love to take the rest of my time to talk about my grandchildren, but maybe we'll save that for another time. I do hope that should I be elected, and I am running unopposed, that we will have a chance to talk, and that if you have questions about school board business, about the schools, about anything that pertains to the reason I hope to serve on the school board, that you will get in touch with me, either by email or by phone. A little bit about myself. Linda and I met in college, and when she graduated from college, she started to teach as an elementary school teacher, a career that lasted for her for 32 years. She's an experienced teacher, and I've been married and observing the different issues that come up about schools today through her eyes. When I graduated from college, I applied for Navy OCS. I earned my commission, and I served 3 years on active duty, including 2 tours to Vietnam. When I was released from active duty, I decided to stay in the Naval Reserve, and 23 years later, I retired as a captain in the Naval Reserve. That's a fact that I'm very proud of. I was proud to serve my country. I've attended Indiana University and got a master's degree in counseling and a doctorate in higher education administration. Because Linda said that she always dreamed of living here in Virginia, I applied for a job at Old Dominion University and began a career there as Director of Financial Aid, Director of Placement, and went on to serve at Old Dominion for 47 years as a faculty member and as a, 15 seconds, as a faculty member and an administrator, including Dean of Students and Vice President. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now have our candidates for school board for the Hartfield District, and each candidate will be given 3 minutes to introduce themselves and give their respective opening statements. We will begin tonight with Pamela Burrell Pierce with her 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you to the Rotary, the Kiwanis, the Lions Club, and the NAACP for putting on this forum and giving Middlesex voters the opportunity to learn about their candidate options. My name is Pamela Burrell Pierce. I'm a mom of 3 children, 2 of which who attend Middlesex County Public Schools. I'm running for Hartfield School Board because of children, my children, and families like mine. During the pandemic, parents and families and our teachers, we went through a lot. And it is important to me to represent parents and families with all these changes that are going on. I've spent the majority of my career in public service. I've worked as a education as a school resource coordinator, and also locally here in Middlesex County and throughout the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck as an advocate with the Community Services Board. I frequently attended IEP meetings and sat in on 504 plans with students advocating. And I believe that the combination of my professional experience and being a Middlesex mom myself brings a unique perspective that the board is currently missing. Thank you.
Jenny McMurtrie, please.
Thank you for hosting the Candidate Forum. I'm Jenny McMurtrie and a 38-year resident of Middlesex County. I'm a 1990 graduate of Middlesex High School. I moved to this county in 1984 when I was in 6th grade from a state-of-the-art school in Kentucky to the old St. Clair Walker. It had creaking floors and no air conditioning, but it did have state-of-the-art teachers who left a lasting educational impression on me. I decided to return to the county after graduating from Longwood College, and I became the new St. Clair Walker's first art teacher. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to give back to a system from where I graduated. I am married to TG, an MHS graduate of 1982, and we have 2 fabulous sons, Russell, almost 20, and Thomas, pushing 17. I was a work-at-home mom for 16 years and have been teaching art at Ware Academy since 2016, only 3 days a week. Now that my boys are older, I have the time once again to devote to the Middlesex County Public School system. My teaching schedule will allow me to spend time in the classroom, firsthand, face-to-face with teachers and students. I want to host parent forums and hear their ideas and concerns. I love the fact that parents are becoming more involved in their children's education. As an educator, I know how hard teachers work, the extra hours, and how difficult this job can be on a daily basis. I am a teacher's biggest cheerleader, but I also want to ensure that teachers are held accountable for the best education of our county students. I am not running to reinvent the wheel. Our system is a great one, and knowing that Dr. Seitz is at the helm and is not there for a stepping stone in a career path, I feel all the more confident that our system will be the top system of the surrounding counties. I want to work with Dr. Seitz and Bishop on a full in-house dual enrollment program for students wishing to graduate with an associate's degree. This means acquiring teachers with the credentials to teach at the college level and retaining them. I want to see our guidance program work more closely with the 8th graders and their parents so that they know of trade options and their career paths at the high school can reflect this. I want our county's graduates to come back and take root here and be the best they can be. And above all, I will make an unbiased decisions and always put our county's children first. Thank you. Mask, sorry.
The order of the questions tonight has been determined by draw at random, and we will start with the first candidate, who's going to be Jenny McMurtrie. Will be asked the question first, be given 2 minutes to respond. Pamela Burrell Pierce will be given 2 minutes to respond, followed by Ms. McMurtrie with 30 seconds and Ms. Pierce then with 30 seconds. And so then for the second question, then it reverses to Ms. Pierce is going to be asked the first question, then Ms. McMurtrie responds, and then we go from there. So candidates, the first question tonight is, what motivates you in your desire to become a school board member? And we begin with Ms. McMurtrie.
All right. Well, like I said before, I want the absolute best for our county's children. They're our county's best asset, and I want them to come back to this county. I want them to come back and make a difference, set up a family here, a business, and be a productive member of our community society. I feel that I have the time now to run and come back and give again to the Middlesex County Public School System. My children, like I said, are older, and I have time to get in there and get my hands dirty and see what works, see what doesn't, and see what I can do to help. I feel it's important to give back to the community in which I was given so much from, or was given so much. And it's just time. It's time for young blood to get in here and new ideas and new perspectives. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Pierce.
So, like I've said before, the main reason that I am running is because currently there is no parent representation on the school board. If I'm elected, I would be the only member that actually has children in the school district. I think that is extremely important to have someone who knows the trials and tribulations that families go through. I think our school district is amazing. I think that we offer so much to our kids, but I think sometimes families don't know what's offered. One of the things that I've always been good at, being in the field that I am, is finding resources and getting people connected to them. I want our families here in Middlesex to know what we offer. I want them to know that we have dual enrollment classes, that kids can graduate with an associate's degree. I want them to take advantage of those things. I want them to know about our great trades programs that we have at Bridging Community, and take advantage of those. We have so much to offer our kids, and I want the same thing for all kids in Middlesex that I want for my children, and that's just the best opportunities, and I want to be able to share that with our community as part of the school board. Thank you.
All right. Actually, it's 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. So if we can hold the applause till after the second round of the question. Ms. McMurtrie, your 30 seconds.
My children did collectively spend more time in our county school system than my candidate as of right now. And I've been involved with the public school system, an independent school system, and neighboring county system where my children have finished and are finishing. I've gained much knowledge over the years, and I've seen what works and what doesn't. And I want to bring those ideas here.
Okay. Ms. Pierce.
So, though I am not an educator myself, I have deeply been involved in this community. I understand the individuals here in Middlesex as a parent. I'm also the wife of an educator here in Middlesex County Public Schools, and I think that it is important to have someone on board that is relevant to right now and has children in the district.
All right. We'll go on to the next question, please. And let's refine this a little bit to say, why don't we hold applause till after the end of the candidate speaking, instead of after each question? Because the timekeepers, I know, want to move along with this. They made that clear when they wanted me to take the job. Next question is beginning with Pamela Burrell Pierce. As a member of the school board, how would you work with central administration to increase the number of minority educators within the school system teaching core classes?
So this is actually something that I think is very important. I do think that representation matters. So when you go into a classroom, being able to see yourself in the classroom. As a child, I grew up in Matthews County. I didn't really see a lot of myself reflected in the teaching staff. I know that my kids tend to have the same experience. They don't see a lot of black and brown people in our teaching staff. I think that we need to do a better job of recruiting from historical black colleges. We have wonderful students who, go on to college to become educators, but they tend to go to other communities. And so really trying to figure out, why is it that our kids are not wanting to come back to us? What do we need to do to cultivate those relationships where they want to come back and serve this wonderful community? So I think that there are ways to be creative with, incentives to bring staff in. But I really think that it starts with the kids that we have here now, and making them feel valued and wanting them to come back, and then reaching out to those colleges that have the teachers that we are looking for to be reflective of our student body.
Ms. McMurtrie.
I think it's great to have diversity in the teaching staff in the schools. I would do whatever the school board and Dr. Seitz and Bishop thought was a great idea to go out and recruit. But I also think that a good teacher is a good teacher. And just because you might be black, brown, yellow, or purple, I don't see you with color. I see what you give to the students. And if you're a great teacher, that's what is going to inspire students to come back. That's my opinion. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Pierce, with your 30 seconds.
So I will again say that representation matters. We are cultivating relationships with these children, and when you cannot see yourself in positions like being teachers, being principals, then you're less likely to go into those career fields. We need to have our staff be representative of the students that are our population.
Ms. McMurtrie.
A great teacher is a great teacher, no matter what color or diversity or ethnicity they come from.
Next question, and this will be answered first by Ms. McMurtrie, followed by Ms. Pierce. What is your position on COVID-19 vaccination and masking requirements in Middlesex County Public Schools?
Well, I was one that didn't want the vaccine at first. I wanted to do my research and go out there and have natural immunities. I did get the vaccine. My children got the vaccine, so did my husband. And do I think we need it? Yes, I do think we need it. Children, I'm not so sure yet about getting children vaccinated at this early age. Masking, I think it's a parent's choice whether they want to send their kid to school in a mask for 8 hours. I see it day to day, and personally, I feel for those kids. I'm in a mask trying to speak and teach and sweating all day long. I can't hear the kids. I feel like it has hidden their personalities. They're hiding behind masks, and I don't think they know how to interact with each other anymore. because they're literally being hidden. You know, half of their faces are being hidden all day long. If a parent wants them to wear a mask, then so be it. But I feel that the kids' hygiene since, 18 months ago has become very good, and just using common sense in the classroom and, outside the classroom. I'm not a pro-mask person.
Thank you. Ms. Pierce, please.
So I know that right now we follow CDC guidelines here in Middlesex. I think that that's what we should continue to do. As far as vaccination, I know that that's a topic that it's complicated. I'm vaccinated. My husband's vaccinated. As far as mandates, I feel like that's difficult with all of our different individuals here in Middlesex County. Especially with our kids, I don't disagree with Jenny. I think that that's a huge ask on parents, but I do feel like we have to make it available. And we have done that here in Middlesex. And I'm very thankful for the fact that we have the clinics for the vaccines. Dr. Seitz has done a wonderful job of making the vaccine available to the staff, to the students. And I think that those are the types of things that we should continue, is to follow the CDC guidelines and to make the vaccine available for those who choose.
Ms. McMurtrie.
I'm good.
All right. Ms. Pierce. Anything further?
No?
Next question. We'll go first to Ms. Pierce. What curricular reforms would you make to ensure that Middlesex County Public Schools students receive a more holistic education on the concepts of race and ethnicity, as well as ways to engage with this content?
So I think this question is probably the most politically correct way that you could bring up probably critical race theory, which I think is just a nice buzzword. I think that we have to teach history. We have to teach diversity. We are not all the same. We do not all come from the same backgrounds. It's important for us to be able to understand each other. Critical race theory, we don't teach that here. 100%, it's not part of our curriculum. I know that because my husband is a history teacher here, and I know that that's not part of his curriculum. It's never been anything that he talks about in our house. It's a college level course, and that's not something that we do here. But what we do is prepare children to go out into the world, and our world is diverse. It holds lots of history, and that's the best thing about our country, is that we are all different. We come from different backgrounds, and we need to make sure that our kids have all the information about what is going on in our country, what has happened in our country's past, and it's that simple, in my opinion.
Ms. McMurtrie.
Okay. I call it the good CRT, which is culturally responsive teaching. And with that, you are learning about the beliefs, the values. You recognize the importance of racial and cultural diversity in learning. And you get to know that there's not just black, brown, white, Hispanic. There might be Native American, someone from the Pacific Pacific Northwest or somewhere like that. You're gaining their experiences and knowledge, and with that, you're learning about how diverse people are out there in the world. And like Pamela said, we do not teach CRT in our Middlesex County public school system. I've never thought it was a good idea that we teach children that they are any less than their counterpart.
Ms. Pierce?
So I don't think that we are teaching children that they're less than, but I do think that part of our history is that there have been inequities throughout our history, and it's necessary for us to teach those points in history.
Ms. McMurtrie?
I'm fine.
Next question, and we'll go first to Mrs. McMurtrie. What is your position on expanding career technical skills and trade education in Middlesex High School?
Oh, I'm all for it. I feel that our guidance program needs to start here at St. Clair Walker in the 8th grade, talking to students and parents. I want them to know that you don't have to go to college to make a wonderful living. There are tradespeople out here in this audience that I can look at and know they probably make 3 times what a teacher makes. And I don't think our students know that. I don't think they know that they can have a very successful job as an electrician or a plumber or a mason person. I don't think it's offered. I don't think they have that information. It needs to be given to them at a very early age so that their classes that they intend on taking at the high school can reflect that. If they're going to go into plumbing or be an electrician, I don't think they necessarily have to have dual enrollment chemistry or calculus. They need to take classes that will help them be successful to the career path that they're choosing. And I'm all for getting a very strong trades program into our system because these children will want to come back to our county. They'll be happy and they'll be productive members of our community.
Mrs. Pierce?
So we have bridging communities that our students have available to them here in Middlesex. I do think that we do need to do a better job of giving options to our students. I don't know that everyone knows what is available, and that is something that is very important to me. As a social worker, I'll keep saying it, resources, they're my jam. And so when people don't know things, I want to figure out why they don't know it, give them the information, and have them be able to make the best decisions for them. Because going to college is not for everybody. And we have wonderful trades programs that I think that our kids can take advantage of, and a lot of them do. So just making that more available to our students, and as far as like testing, if there's a particular test that has to be taken, making sure that it's available. Is it done at the school? Is transportation available? Just making it easier for our students and families to gain access and make decisions.
Thank you. Mrs. McMurtrie?
I do believe the Bridging Communities program is excellent. I just want to see it more readily available to a greater number of students. I think someone can nod their head or correct me if I'm wrong, that it was maybe 32 students that were allowed into the Bridging Communities. So just more availability.
Mrs. Pierce?
Nope, I agree.
All right. Next question goes to Mrs. Pierce. what would you propose to enhance teachers' experiences in Middlesex County Public Schools to come here and stay? What would you do to make us competitive for both recruitment and retention?
So this is something that I have thought a lot about over not just being part of this campaign, but just in general, being that my husband is a teacher here in Middlesex. You know, I remember we were calling to try to get like our student loan payment lowered. And the individual that we were talking to on the phone said, "Oh, did you know that you work in one of the communities where you can get student loan forgiveness?" And it was a certain amount because he was working here in Middlesex County, which is a rural area, and we have some lower socioeconomic standings in some areas. So because of that, he was eligible, but nobody had ever told him that. So that's something that I would like to see in the recruitment. Oh, you're eligible for tuition reimbursement by teaching here. I know that our current board, they've done some great work trying to get housing available. I think that that's something that, you know, is going to be highly beneficial. I think that we just have to get creative in how we recruit individuals. And I know that, you know, it's hard to find teachers all over. There's a teacher shortage. And I think that that's something that we really need to improve on, is letting them know what we have available here, as far as even though we don't pay the most, what are the incentives to come?
Thank you. Mrs. McMurtrie.
Well, our teachers need raises. Our teachers' salaries are on the lowest end of our surrounding counties. When a teacher is happy, students are happy. Teachers are going to go above and beyond. They're going to take that extra step and go that extra step further. I feel like a lot of people that are not in the education system view teachers as, oh, they get 3 months off. That's fabulous. That's baloney. All summer long, teachers are planning. They're making new lessons so they can be the best that they can be for their students. They need to engage them on the weekends. What are they doing? What am I doing? I'm making lessons. It's not like you work at a grocery store or a bank, and when you walk out that door, you walk out that door. You're up at night figuring out how you can engage so-and-so that sits in the second chair, and it never stops. So I feel that if our teachers are happy, our students are going to be much happier. And I think our teachers will always continue to go that extra mile when they know that they're appreciated. And they'll stay. Second, don't hire teachers from Pennsylvania. They're going back home once they get a couple years behind them. They're young, they're happy, they want a job, but not here.
Mrs. Pierce.
Piggybacking off of Jenny, another thing that I think is important is perhaps maybe tuition reimbursement. We have a lot of paraprofessionals that are excellent with our students, but they don't make enough to make it worth going back to school. So I think that offering some incentive and maybe having them be contracted for a certain amount of time after they receive that tuition reimbursement.
Thank you. Now with Mrs. McMurtrie first. Do you believe that the Middlesex High School facilities are adequate for the next 10 years?
This is a tough one. I went to St. Clair Walker in Saluda, and the floors creaked. It had warped carpet. We had no air conditioning. The windows would slam on your fingers. But I had great teachers. I don't necessarily think that a building makes the students. I would much rather see our school invest in its teachers and invest in their salaries and get the best of the best to teach our students. If the school is unsafe, at the high school I'm talking about, then that's a problem. But I don't think the building makes the students. I think it's the teachers, and I would much rather see money invested in the teachers for our students.
Mrs. Pierce.
So I will tell you, I cannot sit up here and pretend that I understand about codes and facilities because I don't. But I do think that, you know, our facilities, they are important. I agree with Jenny. We need to invest in our teachers, but we need to maintain the buildings. We need to keep them safe for our students. We also need to keep them comfortable because if, you know, the HVAC is not working and you're coming to school and you're getting sweaty and you're uncomfortable, you can't learn the best way that you could. So I think that it is important to maintain our facilities and make upgrades as needed.
Thank you. Mrs. McMurtrie?
I agree. I think maintenance is a number one issue. You maintain your house, so you don't have to build a new house every so many years. Maintenance is a very key issue. I know firsthand that I have a very close teacher friend who the HVAC has not been working, and she's in a mask, and her classroom has been very hot this year. And maintenance.
Mrs. Pierce?
I have nothing to add.
I believe this is your final question before your closing comments. And beginning with Ms. Pierce, what are the other challenges facing education in the Middlesex County Public Schools School Board that have not been addressed so far?
Ooh, y'all brought out a whammy for the last one. I think that, you know, every school has lots of challenges. I know that we've talked a lot about, you know, the teachers and retention. I think that, you know, we really need to focus on our kids and what is best for them. There's so much that's going on right now, you know, with COVID and these kids, they've lost a lot of time. These kids have lost a lot of time. I know that I have seen it in my own children. My oldest, she is just one of those kids that she loves everything about school. My son Blake, he loves school too, but I recognize that he's not where my daughter was when she came through this system in the same grade, because they've lost so much. And these teachers, they have worked so hard. They have worked so hard to do all the things for these kids. But we've got to figure out how to, you know, keep these kids and get them where they need to be, because I do know that they're falling behind.
Thank you. Mrs. McMurtrie?
Two issues that I would like to see. And I'm not sure how you do this, but more parent involvement. Teachers can't do it all, Parents have to put down the phone, the iPad, not sit their kids in front of the TV. Simply reading to your kids. I don't care what age they are. If they've got a novel that they're reading, go sit with them. Read a chapter to them. Ask them how their day is. Just getting parents more involved in the education system is key. Secondly, I call it the old school Board of Supervisors versus the school board. I feel like in the past, these two butted heads all the time. And when the school board would come to the Board of Supervisors to ask for money for the school system, it was grumbles. I feel that if the school board and Board of Supervisors can sit in on meetings with each other, see what goes on, on a daily basis, see how these funds are allocated and see what it takes, I think there'd be more of a partnership with both entities, and they might not feel so restricted or upset about what it does cost to run a school on a daily basis. So I think communication is going to be key.
Thank you. Mrs. Pierce.
So I will say from my understanding, our Board of Supervisors and our school boards, they've, over the last few years, they have worked great together. So I do think that they have good communication, just based on conversations that I've had with current board members on both school board and Board of Supervisors. So I think just keep up what you're doing, and hopefully we can do some great things.
Thank you. Mrs. McMurtrie.
Oh, I'm good.
All right. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to give any closing remarks, beginning first with Mrs. McMurtrie.
Thank you once again for hosting the candidate forum. I'm sure after hearing my thoughts and ideas this evening, you will cast your vote for the best person suited for the job as Hartfield School Board member. I will represent our parents and teachers to the best of my ability. And above all, I will always put the children first. Thank you, and God bless.
Mrs. Pierce.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and these amazing organizations that put this forum together. This is really what, our country is about, having choices. So I am appreciative that we have this platform. I just want everybody to know that, Middlesex County is a place that I came to on purpose. I love this county. We lived in Gloucester for years, and then we made the move to Middlesex after my husband started teaching here and my kids went to these schools. We love this community so much, and it would honestly be an honor to be of service to this wonderful community. And I hope that I've impressed upon you guys how I feel and my abilities, and I hope I've earned your vote on November 2nd.
Thank you very much.
Next group will use a little bit more of their time. Yours, you've got 6 in here, and then your 2 supplementals.
Okay, get rid of 8. Supplementals for these 2 here, okay?
If we need more, there are 3 more questions. That should certainly get us through. I know we have not
Okay, that's a good one.
Rephrase it, you would-
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, the last statement.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. Not either.
All right, so let me go to. This is, okay. All right, well, good evening for our next round. I think we ought to go ahead and give the candidates a round of applause even before we begin. All right. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes to introduce themselves and give their respective opening statements. And again, this is by draw, and who is drawn, the first straw, so to speak, is Katie Carnes.
Of course. I want to thank all of the organizations that are hosting this event tonight, and for everyone who has come out. Participation is everything. I am an incredibly structured individual. So I'm not one to make statements that I have not analyzed about 1,000 times, and that goes for my decisions as well. I want to get the facts out to you clearly and with as much detail as possible. That's just the way my brain works. To those who know me or work with me, they will tell you that my success in the business world is a direct result of that strength. I moved to Middlesex County more than 10 years ago because this community filled my heart, and it was where I wanted to raise my children. My husband has lived, worked, and served our community for more than 25 years. We live in Hartfield with 4 amazing children. I have worked from home for approximately 12 years, and I'm the operations manager for a national nurse anesthesia education provider. At work, I'm responsible for operational oversight, project management, impact forecasting, budget analysis, and strategizing process improvement to ensure all project deliverables align with our mission and core values. I have a comprehensive understanding of legal compliance and internal process auditing. One of my top priorities is to provide oversight in an effort to increase transparency and make informed decisions while balancing a high level of client satisfaction and always budget adherence. You will most likely hear a lot tonight about how the current supervisor has done many things for our community. I want to remind you that while I have not sat on the board for the past 4 years, as he has, a lot of times the situation goes much deeper than a few points that you will initially see. A representative is a person who truly represents his or her constituents. You must be present to represent. You must listen to represent. If you dig below the surface, like I and many in this community have done, you may see a different picture. Take today's media, for instance. You can watch one clip and have one opinion, but when you dig deeper, things aren't actually what they seemed when you watch the full story. I have a deep love for our community, and it's my mission to preserve its character, culture, and foster the voice of its residents with true accountability and representation.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Koontz.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, NAACP. I hope this is the beginning of more events where the 4 groups can come together. I think it's representative of not only our diversity, but the best of us coming together as volunteers and serving our community. Basically, we're in a position where my experience, very, very quickly, I'll just say it's 4 years on the Board of Supervisors. And the Sentinels here, they've been covering for 4 years all that we've accomplished as a board. It was interesting to hear the school board candidates talking about a time in the past when the school board and the Board of Supervisors didn't necessarily work well together. I think in the last 4 years that has changed dramatically, and I think I've been a big part of that. And I look forward to working with the school board again, hopefully for the next 4 years. But my candidacy this year is really about continuing, staying the course. What we've done the past 4 years has been things that we've been talking about for the last 40. We've got a water project that's 85% complete. It's completely funded by ratepayers. It's going to bring us fire hydrants and water protection, lower insurance. We've got a sewer system that's about 2 years behind or 3 years behind the water system. Next year or in December, we'll find out if we have universal broadband coverage with a grant from Virginia that will go with another $6.5 million that's coming from the private sector. So we've been creating partnerships between the federal, the state, the local, the private industry, whatever it takes to get projects done, we're doing them. And we need to stay the course. So whether it's water, sewer, broadband, the public beach that we're working on, the Mill Creek Landing, keeping that open for our watermen and our recreational fishermen. Economic development, we're considering retail right now in the center of the county. And that's something that we've been trying to nourish over the course of the last 4 years. And some of that's actually coming to fruition now. We also have electric buses. We have 2. We'll have 4 soon. That was done with grant funding that I helped solicit. And I'm probably most proud that I'm now seeing people within the schools following that lead and finding that money from outside of the county so that we don't have to raise taxes for everything that we want to fund in this community. So we really just need to stay the course. Some of the new things that are coming down the pike, we have an energy storage project in the center of the county that would yield $9 million. The state legislation has been changed so that we can actually get some revenue from those kinds of projects, whereas we couldn't 2 years ago. That $9 million could really do a lot of good things for us, and it would come from outside of the county. We're also looking at officer cameras for our police department. So there's a lot that we've already started doing in the last 40 years, and in particular in the last 4, and I'd like to continue working on them.
Mr. Harris.
I'd also like to thank the Kiwanis, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, and the NAACP for their participation in putting on the event. And I'd like to thank you, Mike, for accepting the challenge and being the moderator. I'd also like to thank all of you for attending the event and taking the time to be here and listen to the candidates. I've been here for almost 40 years as a resident. I'm a member of Christ Church Parish, Episcopal Church. I married my high school sweetheart, which is here tonight, and I raised 2 children in Middlesex County, Michael and Catherine. I want to tell you a little bit about my background, if I could. I worked as the vice president and business manager for Barnhart Farms, Inc., and that was the largest employer in Middlesex County for many, many years. I also retired recently from Safe Light Auto Glass as a regional manager for them. Part of my responsibility was to build markets for our company across the state of Virginia. One of my responsibilities was to bid and execute contracts with Chesterfield County, Henrico County, Hanover County, the city of Hampton, and the city of Chesapeake. I have experience with evaluating budgets and focusing on execution and control of those budgets. I am a moderate conservative and will provide accountability and careful business sense as it comes to the boards of supervisors on decisions and how those decisions will affect the citizens of Middlesex County. I also am a big promoter for education and retaining good teachers in our community. The youth is the most important thing, I think, going forward, and how we educate them is very important. Am I finished, or was that something else? I also am a big believer in protection for the citizens through first responders, fire and rescue, and the Sheriff's Department. So I will be a big proponent for making sure those are adequate to the citizens of Middlesex County. Thank you.
Mr. Greg Chambers.
Thank you very much. I'm Greg Chambers, and I first want to thank the civic organizations that pulled us together tonight, and Mike for moderating this session. I've been pretty involved in service to the people of Middlesex since I came here about 11 years ago. On my first day, I contacted Dave Cryer about joining the Habitat chapter. I joined the board. I was president for several years, and I've built 11 homes in the time I've been with Habitat. I joined Kiwanis soon thereafter and served as president and youth services chair for, I think, 9 years. I've been up on this stage handing certificates and awards to children at the end of each of the school years that I served as youth services leader. I took care of the tutoring program, the scholarship team, as well as the Backpack Buddy program to feed the children on weekends from low-income families. The last few years, I've been very, very engaged in bringing a water system to the county, as John mentioned, to serve 692 families that desperately need clean water. I like being busy, and I like getting things done. In fact, my education, I have a chemistry background, worked for a big company doing research for a few years, but made my way quickly into leadership because my emphasis was more on getting things done, implemented, and making money than there was on just purely doing the science. I love getting things done. I love being in leadership, but also getting my hands dirty and making things happen. I think that's why I'll make a good addition to the Board of Supervisors. I'm a fiscally conservative guy and committed to keeping taxes low in this county. That's why I volunteered for the MWA when I was asked to serve. Infrastructure will bring new residents and new businesses to the county, and that's very important to keeping our taxes low. I think we need to control growth through the comprehensive plan that the county's had in place for a long time. And I think, quite frankly, that government should be focused on its core mission of delivering critical services like emergency services, education, and infrastructure. Those are the things that I care about, and you're going to hear the word focus from me a lot if I'm on the Board of Supervisors. Focus on a few things, but do them well, do them quickly, do them at low cost. My time in the business world taught me to control money very carefully and focus on delivering a few big things, and that's what I hope to do for Middlesex.
Thank you. We'll wait until the end, please. It's tempting, don't blame you. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to start with Mr. Koontz with the first question, and then we'll go down the table. And then once you answer the question, which you have 2 minutes to answer the question, then we start again with Mr. Koontz with the 30 seconds and go down the table, down to Mr. Harris with the 30 seconds in response. So the question is, what motivates you to want to become a member of or serve another term of the Middlesex County Board of Supervisors?
Well, I'll say it. Hartfield is spelled Hartfield. What motivates me, though, is you know, I kid there, but it's really picking up on the little things. It's picking up on the little things and making something of them. It's finding teachable moments. It's you know, the reality that our kids are watching us. You know, my kids are young. I have 4 at home, and they ask me questions all the time, and they're great questions often. Sometimes they're horrible questions, but there's lots of questions. There's lots of dialogue, and especially now that I'm involved in the community as I have been the last 4 years, their questions are about their community, and that motivates me as a parent, but as a community member. Their questions are about my involvement in Lions, my involvement in the NAACP, my involvement in Rotary. Dad, why are you thinking about coaching? You don't have time to do that. There's all kinds of questions, but what they see is somebody who is motivated by improving their community and demonstrating contributing to their community. And in my circle of friends, I find a lot of times that it's infectious, whether it's me leading or them leading me. We're having conversations about Middlesex County, whether I'm from here, whether I came here, whether I chose here. We're all talking about making the place better and doing it in front of our children so that the next generation, whether they're here in Middlesex in Lancaster or in Sri Lanka, they're going to be a part of a community and they're going to be contributors. And that's what motivates me, is that example that we can set for our children.
Katie Carnes.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to lead with this, so I'm a little frustrated that that was the first question. I don't want to be the bad guy here, but I am running for this position because we don't have a representative. Attendance. A few days ago, I went all the way back to January of 2018, which was the beginning of this prior 4-year term. And I documented the meeting attendance for all current board members through this month. I found that the Hartfield representative has a 55% full meeting attendance rate, while the rest of the board rates are 100, 100, 100, and 98%. There can't be a single person in this room that believes a 55% full meeting attendance rate or attendance rate by any of our children or employees is an acceptable rate. It doesn't show accountability. There are a lot of things that the board can do as a team, but we are lacking representation. I believe that the people holding a position of public trust must maintain integrity and dignity of their office in a way that secures a high level of public confidence. This is a job. It may be a part-time job. I thought it was a volunteer position when I decided to run, but evidently it's paid. But board members need to act accordingly. They need to attend the entire meeting so that they're there for public comment and our public hearings. You cannot represent your district if you are not at the public hearings and the public comment section.
Greg Chambers.
Thank you very much. I got involved in this, quite frankly, because my predecessor, or if I win, my predecessor, Pete, asked me to run. He's seen me sitting in the audience for probably 2 or 3 years at every supervisor's meeting, seeing how things happened. And I was there because I wanted to make sure I understood how water fit within the plan of the county. And frankly, why do I want to run? Because I think I can do a good job and I can bring focus to the Board of Supervisors and have them work on a few important things and get them done. I'm also running for the same reason that I work with the schools through Kiwanis. I'm passionate about kids and education, and I think it's the key to success in almost everything in life. And bottom line is, I think I can help make things happen. I worked in a big, diverse company with factions all over the place fighting with one another, and I know how to bring people together and get everyone focused and on the same page and get stuff done, and that's what I think I can do for Middlesex. On what Katie said, I understand what she's saying about attendance, but if there's anything I've learned in water over the last few years, it's that we meet formally for about 2 hours every 2 months, okay? That is not the work of being on the Water Authority. The work of being on the Water Authority is taking 4 or 5 phone calls today when I should have been doing debate prep and working 20 to 30 hours every week on the details of running this thing. It's important to me. I love doing the hard work, and I hope I can get things done for the citizens of the county.
Don Harris.
Thank you, Michael. I'm running for the county for a couple reasons. One, I think that we need some progressive thinking on the supervisors. I think we also need to have people that have a very strong business background, particularly with water and sewage coming to the county. There's going to be the opportunity for a tremendous amount of changes. I'm concerned about that in that how is it going to be paid for? Our water budget has run significantly over budget, And I would bring to the table a business aptitude of being able to evaluate the projects, evaluate the cost, and ultimately, and more importantly, evaluate what the impact can be on the citizens of Middlesex County. Thank you.
Thank you. Thirty seconds from Mr. Koontz, please.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm so grateful that we're not talking about my tie or my shoes. That's what I've been dealing with for the last 4 years. People are really struggling to find the issues that they really have with what I've done. Most recently, it was a monument, and that was a decision that I made that led Katie to take a chance at running this campaign. But the 55% full attendance, I would ask for a second source.
Thank you. Ms. Carnes.
Middlesex County, Virginia YouTube channel lists the meeting recordings for every single board meeting back through 2017, and I've documented every single one of them. So that would be these. You want to copy?
Full attendance, how do you define that?
Okay, let's not address each other, okay?
Full attendance means that the member wasn't present for roll call or wasn't present for the last at least 45 minutes of the end of the meeting, which is the public comment
All right,
section and
thank
public
you.
hearing.
Mr. Chambers.
Thank you very much. When I think about the water project, I think about the impact on the county. You know, we have cost a little bit more than anticipated, but we've gone from 488 subscribers to 691. If you look at the tax revenue that will come from what the people are going to pay as their properties get more valuable, I think you're going to find that this is a very positive thing for the county.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Michael. Again, my plan as if elected to the Board of Supervisors is to bring a practical judgment and a moderate conservative view to ensure all citizens are represented and the decisions that are made are sound business decisions. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. All right. For the next question, I'm glad it's not popping up yet because it's a little convoluted, so I'm changing it a little bit. Instead, we're just going to look at it as a topic. And the topic is to discuss affordable housing, discuss any plans to address increasing affordable housing, and accessing any programs. Starting with Don Harris, and we'll go down the table.
All right, Michael, would you read the question again?
Okay. The topic is affordable housing.
Yep.
You can discuss any plans to address increasing affordable housing or accessing any programs. So it's discuss affordable housing.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Okay. Just let me know when you're ready, and the timekeeper then can begin. Okay.
I'm ready. Thank you. Affordable housing. I think that definitely there's a need for that in Middlesex County, primarily for people that may be coming to the county that need to have that type of housing available to them and make it more attractive for people to come to the county. The project at Cook's Corner, which was redeveloping the elementary school, I think had affordable housing earmarked in that. Some people were for it, some people were against it. I thought that that would have been an opportunity for that type of program to come along with, I think it was a restaurant and a brewery, which would possibly have an opportunity for younger people to remain in the county. Some live here and work somewhere else, and a lot have left the county to go somewhere else. So it is a need for affordable county and affordable housing, and I would be for that in the respect of how it would be and where it would be and what the cost to the county would be for something like that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Well, I think on affordable housing, I've sort of been walking the walk. I've built 11 houses through Habitat with the assistance of John and Don's church over the time that I've been here. So I'm doing my best to help people that desperately need housing. But probably more importantly, we are working as a county to develop infrastructure, and infrastructure makes land available. I remember sitting in a meeting reviewing the easements that we would need for the water system, and we came upon a series of lots in the Stingray Point area, postage stamp lots that were so small that you can't simultaneously put a well and a septic system and provide and meet the code of having them be 100 feet apart, okay? If you put a pipe in front of that piece of land, it becomes very affordable. So lots that have an assessed value of $3,000 today because they're useless are gonna have value, okay? And that is gonna allow us to develop a greater fraction of the properties in the county, make land more affordable, and should lead us to opportunities towards affordable housing. On the specifics of the Cook's Corner development, I was peripherally involved in that, met with the team that was putting it together because of the need for utilities for that thing. I was a big fan of it, primarily because it was gonna make Middlesex more attainable and attractive to professionals and teachers and those that service the county. So I was a big supporter of that project.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mrs. Carnes.
I and my husband both have backgrounds in construction, in my previous time building custom homes. My husband's also a contractor, or was. There are a lot of, let me back up a second. I also, before I moved to this area some 12, 15 years ago, I did have several large properties where we had apartment complexes, we had a mobile home park, commercial buildings, shopping center. There are, in this area, federal grants that are available. There are rural grants that are available for low-income housing. Do I think that we need to develop our county and lose the culture and the rural character of our land? No. But there is a smart way to do it where we can provide affordable housing in clusters that will not affect our landscape, but will also help these individuals be able to have home ownership or rent homes in this area so that they can stay here with their families.
Thank you. And Mr. Koontz.
Thanks, Mike. Before I ran for Board of Supervisors, in the first years I was in the community, I too got involved with Habitat for Humanity, not to the extent that Greg certainly has, but really enjoyed working with Habitat for Humanity because it brought in contractors who contributed and helped bring the cost of home ownership down into range that people who previously couldn't attain it now could. Greg, if you wouldn't mind, please don't talk about my attendance in the past 4 years to Habitat for Humanity. But similarly, I'm on the Middlesex Foundation with Bruce and others, and it's ironic because I actually had to not make the Middlesex Foundation meeting this week. So my attendance in some of these things is off, but the other thing that's going on with the Middlesex Foundation, which as you know is the group that was working on the Cook's Corner workforce housing project and the brewery, and all that fell through with COVID, but we need more members. We don't necessarily need more supervisors. We need more of you in the community to come out and join these boards. I'm also looking for somebody to join the Board of Equalization, as I did prior to my term on the Board of Supervisors. There are plenty of positions within the community where we actually have to actively go out to you, the public, and ask for you to join and help us. These board spots are open. Some of our directors have been in these positions for 5 years, and they've really only committed to 2. But until we as a community can raise all of our attendance, it all seems to fall to the same 40 or 50 people. And so there's a recruitment effort that is part of this job as well. And sometimes you have to make the job so attractive that you have to sell people on the idea that maybe they want to take your job. But it's not just about attendance.
Thank you. Reply for 30 seconds each, going with Don Harris and all the way back to Mr. Koontz again. Mr. Harris.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Chambers.
Same.
Mrs. Carnes.
I'll pass.
And Mr. Koontz.
Oh, I'll take the opportunity. And just so we know, the workforce housing that was at Cook's Corner, it's not necessarily dead, but we had all kinds of things that hampered us, and COVID was a big one, and what happened is it killed the brew pub, or at least pushed it back. And so all of the grant funding that we had assembled over those 3 years of working on this, everything fell apart at the same time. But it doesn't mean we're over and we're done. We're still working on a workforce housing solution for our teachers, law enforcement, administration, and county employees. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, candidates, what is your position on the proposed sewer system? And we're going to go with Mr. Chambers, then Mr. Harris, Mr. Koontz, Mrs. Carnes. So again, the question is, what is your position on the proposed sewer system? Mr. Chambers.
My position on the proposed sewer system is just like my position on anything else brought before the board. I'm going to want to understand the facts before I make a decision. And I'll give you an example of the kinds of facts that I'll be looking for, okay? I work with LUD on the sewer advisory committee that's not an authority, but sort of as an advisory group to the Board of Supervisors. That group contracted with Timmons to develop some approximate costs and plans for deployment in topping, okay? And I've seen that economic model, okay, and it shows that it does not quite pay for itself. If you average the amount of county money that would be required to pull that thing off over the first 10 years, it averages right around $50,000. So the kinds of questions I would be asking are, what is the payback on that system to the county? For example, the campground is going to put approximately 200 new sites at that lot. If you assess those individual sites at $40,000 a piece and do the calculations, you come up with $62,000, okay, which is more than what it would cost for the county to pay for that system. So it's a net gain to the county, and that doesn't count the jobs that are created, the sales tax revenue, the lodging tax revenue. So, you know, I like to say that to be a supervisor, you need a little bit of common sense and a calculator and a willingness to do some math to look at these things thoroughly before you make up my mind. So I will be a supporter of sewer, provided that it's in the best interests of the county as suggested by the numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Michael. I would agree with Greg on several of those points as well. I think that sewer can be a good thing for the county, but I'm more of a person, it's easy to spend, somebody said this to me the other day, it's easy to spend other people's money. Well, I think as a supervisor, that should be very important to how the money's spent and who ultimately is going to pay for that project. So at this point, I do think sewer is important, but I think that it really needs to have a very close cost evaluation on the project and how that would impact the citizens of Middlesex County. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Koontz.
I think it's a great project. I share Greg's thinking that it merits constant review. We've created a committee of maybe not necessarily experts, but people that are providing the Board of Supervisors with better details about the options as they come through, as we cycle through the different stages of engineering. And there still are a myriad of options for us to select from So that diligence is going to be ongoing, but whatever sewer system we decide to go with is a huge opportunity for the community. My biggest concern is, are we following the comprehensive plan as closely as we should be? Because that's a document that you, the community, put together every 10 years. It's a guiding document, and it really dictates for us what the community wants long term. And when we bring in sewer, nobody can say with certainty the extent to which that is going to turn on economic development. We all hope that it will be an economic driver, but we can't say with exact certainty, especially coming out of COVID times when people are reevaluating where their primary homes are going to be. We can't say with certainty if it's going to overheat our economy, because we are like Goldilocks out here. We want a little bit of that stimulus. We want a little bit of that economic development. We want to spread the taxes out among a couple more people so we can keep our taxes low, but we don't want to look like Ocean City or some trail onto the Outer Banks that's completely overdeveloped. We don't want to look like Gloucester. So we have to be very careful when we're thinking about this major development that's coming on the heels of the water system. It is going to mean that we'll be able to have more capacity in our restaurants that currently can't have as many seated patrons. It is going to mean that we're going to be able to have more developers coming in with community development, whether it be affordable or otherwise. But we have to stay the course with the comprehensive plan and keep reading the community's 10-year notes and daily notes on what it is that we want in Middlesex County.
Mrs. Carnes.
Smart growth. We need to increase our tax base. That's, that might sound a little scary to some of you. But increasing the tax base helps our businesses, and it helps our residents, and it helps to keep our taxes low. The problem is we need to be able to do that while preserving our rural community culture. There are many capital projects out there that our county has taken on, like the water and the sewer and the broadband projects. My instinctive fear with any project of this size is the lack of balance, oversight, and transparency through all phases of the project. These projects are a surefire way to give us the tax base increase that we need, as long as it makes financial sense for our residents. I'm not alone in my concerns about the financials involved with these projects and the positive or negative impacts that they'll have on our residents. We just need oversight, and we need transparency. There were a lot of concerns and a lot of information, some good, some bad, going around about the budget of the water project. And what it took was someone to go into, to make contact with one of the Water Authority board members, and turns out they actually didn't know that some of this information was going around, and that there was a large group in the community that thought that the water project budget had gone up to $55 million. It hasn't, but we actually sat down and had a very good, candid conversation back and forth, where I had asked for an interim report to be published in the Southside Sentinel last month. I did receive an email with a full breakdown and cost analysis of all of the costs and the funding sources.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Now for the 30-second response, beginning with Greg Chambers.
Thank you very much. I want to stress that in all the things that we're doing in infrastructure, we're going there where there is demand, okay? John, Reggie, and I got called to a meeting on a Sunday afternoon about 6 weeks ago by a group of people that wanted to talk about water. We got there and found out I was standing on a $30,000 septic system that somebody had just had to install. It ends up they wanted water so they could get sewer. We got to go where the demand is.
We've got to stop.
Sorry.
Don Harris.
Thank you, Michael. Again, the sewer project is a very big project for Middlesex County. A lot of change can happen with a project, and being aware of what that change is as far as the rural culture of the county should be looked at and should be looked at very closely.
Thank you. Mr. Koontz.
Transparency. My cell phone number is 804-944-1473. If you have questions about water, sewer, broadband, whether you live in Hartfield or any part of Middlesex or a neighboring county, I will take your call. Ask your friends, they're calling me.
Thank you. Mrs. Carnes.
I'll pass.
The next question will be starting with Mrs. Carnes, then Mr. Koontz, then Mr. Harris, and Mr. Chambers. Of course, you have the 2 minutes to answer. The question is, considering the current COVID pandemic, what is your position on requiring county employees to be vaccinated and or to wear masks?
I am very conservative in nature. I am vaccinated, although I had some hesitation getting the vaccine. It was just emotional inside me. I don't like to be forced to do something that was not my decision. My children are vaccinated. I am vaccinated. I mask. I hand sanitize. I personally believe that I don't think it's right to mandate that someone has to be vaccinated. Masks is a different situation. It's a little gray area there, but I don't believe in forcing somebody to get a vaccination if they're not comfortable with it. My sister-in-law actually lost her job this summer because she was not comfortable getting the vaccine. She is a wonderful educator. Children love her, and she was heartbroken over the fact that she lost her job. Now, do I understand the parents or the employer that required that vaccine? I do understand where they're coming from, but I also believe it's a personal decision. Do I want my child to mask in school? I do. I just don't think that people should be forced. I think that is a personal decision.
Thank you. Mr. Koontz.
Right before we got on the stage, I got a call from one of my project managers. He's trying to board a flight in Philadelphia for Germany for a meeting that we have next week. And he calls and he says, "John, I'm not vaccinated. They told me if I did this and I did that, then I'd be fine. Now they want me to send you a letter and you have to sign this and maybe I can get on the plane." And I said, "Brett, you're going to have to call somebody else. I've got this debate that I have to attend." And I got him in touch with another project manager that had a high enough signature to be able to get him on the plane. But the point is, we're all in this together. This community would not support a mandate for a vaccination for employees. We would end up being so disruptive of what we're trying to do with all of our departments as a county. But I would encourage everybody who hasn't put a second thought to vaccination versus non-vaccination to just look at all of us with our masks. We're all done. We want to be done. So nobody's telling you you have to, but please be thinking about it. As far as our schools and our county employees with masks, we're all tired of them, but they are still helping. At least that's what the science is telling us. And I don't think we can do much more than we're doing and following CDC recommendations within the schools. But I think, honestly, while this community would not support a mandate for vaccination, I think the mandate really falls to us as individuals to talk to our friend groups at a more local level. And we don't mandate our friends do anything, but we can certainly talk to them and say, are you on the fence? Maybe I can help you get off the fence and consider a vaccination. But, I fully respect all of the people that have a differing opinion there, and that's the reality. There's no room for a mandate for vaccination in this community. It just would not be well responded to.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Michael, would you read the question again? Because I may have misunderstood.
Considering the current COVID pandemic, what is your position on requiring county employees to be vaccinated and or to wear masks?
Thank you. I think, as John just pointed out, it'd be very difficult to mandate whether or not you should be wearing a mask or not, or get a vaccination. I do both. You're doing it tonight. I think it protects your fellow citizen to be able to do whatever you can do to help reduce the ability of people getting sick. Can you mandate it? Probably not. I do think, though, that businesses, hospitals, maybe even county governments, and where it may not be so popular, Middlesex is not a mega county, and I don't know that you'd have a problem with mandating masks at the county office. Again, it would be very difficult to mandate the whole county, but businesses could certainly say, we're not going to serve you unless you wear a mask in. I think the schools are doing the right thing, and as uncomfortable as it may be to wear a mask, you're protecting other people that are out there, and I agree to that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
You know, I'm a scientist, and I hate what's going on with science in the community as a result of this pandemic. Every other issue of chemical and engineering news, which I still read, is devoted to COVID. And the one thing I can tell you with great certainty is that we don't know a heck of a lot about this thing that's out there in the community. So it pays for people to be careful, okay? And therefore, having read everything that I've read, I would implore you all to get vaccinated and do what you can to protect your friends, your family, and your neighbors. But this is a free society, and I believe that comes first. I'll implore you to do those things because I think you have a responsibility to protect your friends, neighbors, and family, and that's why I want you to do that. But I don't think I have I should ever have the power to mandate that. I have observed in my work in nonprofits the absolute devastation of this disease on our mission, okay? It's harder to get volunteers. It's harder to figure out how to run the Oyster Festival. I am very worried about the irreparable damage that is being done to the fabric of our society by this thing. I hate it. I want it to go away, but there's not a heck of a lot we can do other than to get vaccinated. I recently participated in a contentious meeting with Kiwanis on how are we going to run the Oyster Festival. Who wears masks, all that kind of stuff, okay? We came down to the fact that as servers of the community, we have responsibility to protect our customers. So we will wear masks in our Kiwanis booth. Our customers will be encouraged, but we won't demand that people wear masks, and that's how I think we need to operate as a society today.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Now for the 30 seconds, Mrs. Carnes.
I'll pass.
Mr. Koontz.
I'm hopeful that when COVID is finally over, it'll be an opportunity for us to examine how lucky we are to be a small community, because we can talk to each other if we choose to talk to each other. We can expand beyond our little circle of friends and still have a major impact on our community. COVID's forced us to make decisions about whether we mask, whether we don't mask, whether we vaccinate, whether we don't vaccinate, whether we talk to that person who doesn't vaccinate, whether we don't talk to that person who does mask, all of this. But we have so many things we can do as a small community if we stay together and communicate with each other and not pull apart like so much is going on in our country.
Thank you, Mr. Koontz. Mr. Harris.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Chambers.
I would just encourage everybody to keep the spirit of working together for the good of this community and understand that we have differences of opinion among us. Respect the opinions of your neighbors, friends, and coworkers. Get along and keep this county moving forward.
Thank you. All right, for our next question, this is another one that, in reading it, is a little convoluted, so I'm going to narrow it, again, as a topic. The topic is the present and future of fire and rescue services in Middlesex County. If you can address your position regarding maintaining or increasing the county's contributions for these emergency services. And I'll go over that again. The topic is the present and future of fire and rescue services in the county. And if you will please discuss your position regarding maintaining or increasing the county contributions for these emergency services. We begin with Mr. Koontz, please.
So this is something that is going on in rural communities throughout the United States. We have a problem. Our young people and the people that have been serving for many, many years as fire and rescue EMTs, they simply don't have that kind of volunteer time that they might have 20 or 40 years ago. And man, are we fortunate for the ones that still are doing it and their 2 jobs or their 3 jobs and still making time for that. But the reality is our budget has changed in the last 10 years to where we're spending, I think, $500,000 a year to have paid fire and rescue supplementing our existing fire and rescue. This trend line is not in our favor. We're going to have to increase what we contribute to fire and rescue and EMTs. And the only way that we can do that is most likely going to be with looking at our budget. And so are we going to cut something else? I know that budget pretty well. There's not a lot of things there to be cut. So we're going to have to look at ourselves squarely in the face, just like the issue of teacher salaries. We heard these school board members get on and say, well, if we pay the teachers, everything will be fine. That's fine. We all want to pay the teachers, but we have to pay for it. And if that means a tax increase, I can tell you that means a really unpleasant 2-3 months going to Food Lion in this community when you're the one spearheading that tax increase. It's not something I want to do or have fun doing. But if we're serious about addressing emergency services and rescue costs basically going up because there's less volunteers than there were 20 years and that trend line is going away from us. If we're behind on paying teacher salaries and we make incremental increases but we're still falling further behind, that money's got to come from somewhere. And your best supervisors are the ones that are creatively going outside of the county to find private money, federal money, state money, before they use the local money. But I think for fire and rescue, we're going to have a serious discussion about how we afford getting more money to those people because they simply can't keep on at the rate that we are.
Thank you. Mrs. Carnes.
For anyone who knows me, military and our first responders always take priority. I cannot think of one exception to that. I don't think that our military or our first responders have the respect that they deserve from our country for what they give to our country and our local communities. My husband has been a volunteer fireman for, 15, 20 years. My son is also a fireman. They're both right here in Middlesex County. And I don't think that we would have an issue. Let me clarify this. Yes, I would support increasing funding. I think there are ways to find that money. We just need to look for it. There are grants out there. There is private money available. There are ways that we can find the money in our budget to assist our fire departments and our first responders with EMS, rescue squad. Those people are amazing. Our house burned down several years ago, and the fire department came and the things that they do are incredible. They put their lives aside at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when they need to get up and work at 5 o'clock in the morning. They will respond to your call if you need them. And I want to see our county show them the same support.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers, please.
Thank you very much. Before I moved here, I looked around at the county from a demographic and a services perspective. And you look at the age distribution in our county, we are a retirement community for a good fraction of the people. We have to have excellent services. One of the things, in addition to fire and rescue, was just medical services, and if it wasn't for Dr. Robusto, who's now retired, I might not live here. These services are non-negotiable. They have to be done. It is the first responsibility of government to get these basic things done and done right. So I know it's hard to get volunteers. It's harder to run an organization where half the people are paid and half the people are volunteers. That's a challenge from a management perspective. But we've got to encourage people to volunteer, but at the end of the day, we need to do what's necessary to serve the citizens with these basic and essential services. It's also important, I hate to harp on water, but it's also important to have hydrants that actually work. I know of multiple instances, houses that are burned down because a hydrant didn't do its job. And we've got to fix that for everybody in the county. We're off to a good start, but we got more to do there for this essential services. Lastly, I would ask everybody in the room, you probably know a cop, a teacher, a firefighter, somebody on the rescue squad. I'd like to ask everybody to go out and find one and thank them for what they do for the community.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Michael. It's a very tough subject. You have, as Mr. Koontz said, does the budget allow you to be able to pay for those services? Greg was correct in that about half of the population in Middlesex County is retirement age or pretty close to that. I would assume that all of us, myself and everybody included here, as well as they've spoken, feel that fire rescue, first responders, and protection through the police departments, sheriff's department is very important. I agree it is. I think that funding should be available to be able to provide those services to the residents of Middlesex County. How it's paid for, that's the slippery slope. Are taxes going to need to go up to be able to pay for those? Can you find enough grant money to be able to do that? But it's something that we'll be faced with, particularly with water and sewage coming to this county and what that may do to the population here. It's going to be very, very important to figure out how to be able to fund those services to the county residents. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Now for the 30 seconds, starting with Mr. Koontz.
I think what you're hearing is agreement. I think all of us want to fund emergency services. It's a question of how we fund it. What I would encourage you, if you haven't been coming to board meetings, before I ran for board 4 years ago, I went to 12 consecutive board meetings. And what I found is they're long and they're pretty boring. But if you're going to really get involved at 1 or 2 meetings a year, March and April is really good because that's when we start doing all of the discussion as supervisors. Okay, what are we going to cut? What are we going to fund? And we start by solving for how do we not raise taxes. But that's where all the decision making happens. So if you're going to make one, March and April.
Thank you, Mr. Koontz. Mrs. Carnes.
So on top of additional funding, one of my concerns is coordination with our first responders and sheriff's department. So it's not just a matter of whether we're going to provide them additional funding, it's whether we're going to involve them in our decisions and to consult with them before making large decisions that affect their jobs, like the increase in the campsites that was approved. The sheriff's department should have been consulted on that ahead of time because of how it affects their department.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Mr. Chambers.
I started my remarks this evening with the word focus. This is what government's about. We need to make sure we do it well and do it as cost effectively as possible. But the bottom line is this is not negotiable.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Michael. Well, you've heard that everybody pretty much thinks that that ought to be done, and I agree with that. I think that communication, though, to the county residents about what's going on and how some of that money is being spent is much easier for residents to accept the changes in budget, et cetera, if they're more communicated and what the advantage will be to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. The next question is one that I'm going to word just a little differently again because it included about if you're in favor of economic development. And I can't imagine any of the candidates not being in favor of any economic development. So we're going to have this instead as another topic, as discussion. Discuss your position on economic development in the county and your any particular types of development you favor, any plans or goals regarding economic development. So the topic is economic development in Middlesex County, and you can discuss any particular types of development that you favor and any plans regarding economic development. And this first goes to Mr. Harris in regard to economic development in Middlesex County.
Michael, would you read that? No, just kidding. Economic development is going to be important for Middlesex County for a couple of reasons. One, it will substantiate additional tax revenue to the county. How that's done is going to be difficult. Along with economic development, I think Middlesex would be more desirable for retaining the youth and the jobs in the county. In addition, if the tax base is increased, budgets for increasing teachers' pay and reducing tax burden on residents could be achieved. Development would be balanced with the rural nature of our county, and ideas should be explored with the Economic Development Authority as well as the Industrial Development Authority to how we should be able to do that. The Rappahannock River and the Chesapeake Bay is a considerable resource for our county, and we need to promote Middlesex County's appeal and accessibility as it pertains to the waterways that we're surrounded by. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Well, you know, economic development is something that was top of mind for me when I was asked to sit on the Water Authority. I knew from my my corporate experience, I worked with GE Lighting, and that got me in front of a lot of people that ran, you know, chain stores, CVS's, and those sorts of things. And I remember a consistent theme from those discussions. A couple of things. How many people do you have within a 15-mile radius that we can serve? Do you have sewer? Do you have water? Do you have broadband? My view on economic development is to do the things in this county that make economic development possible. That's why I agreed to be on the Water Authority. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm trying to help Lud, and that's why I'm the biggest cheerleader on the planet for what John has been doing with broadband. I'm a guy working on water, but from my experience in the business world, I can tell you that the most important thing is broadband. The second most important thing is sewer, and the third most important thing for economic development is water. I'm just working on the thing they asked me to help with, but those are my beliefs. We have to do all three things for the survival of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mr. Koontz, please.
Yeah, I would echo what Greg said, and it sounds like, Lud, you might be on the Sewer Authority soon if Greg's pushing you in that direction. But yeah, the sewer, the water, the broadband, they're going to be the platform on which we can grow. Then the question is using the guiding documentation of the comprehensive plan and feedback from constituents to make the right decisions as the Economic Development Authority brings opportunities in front of the board for final approval. One thought I do have, and this is ongoing right now, we have a retail letter of intent that, you know, it's not public yet, but it's getting closer to that point. But it occurs to me the county still has a number of assets and land that may be of no interest to us necessarily that we've just been holding. But I think out of the conversations I've been having this week, I would like to bring up at the next meeting that we release some of those to the Economic Development Authority and at least have them at their fingertips for developers to be aware that those might be opportunities for us to develop. Right now, they're just sort of sitting in limbo, stranded assets, and you know the fiduciaries look at that and don't say that's all bad. But in terms of economic development, they're pretty stale. So that's one idea, and you know, realistically, we're doing what we can with Virginia's river realm, with things like the Oyster Festival. I mean, we certainly have a reputation in the Commonwealth as a place to come visit, and I think coming out of COVID, more and more people are saying it's a pretty nice place to come stay. But we just have to manage that growth, especially after we have the water, sewer, and the broadband in place, because we don't want to completely change the nature of this place. So we'll just have to be smart, listen to the people, listen to the comprehensive plan, and hopefully more and more of you will get involved in the various committees and boards that have opportunities for you to participate with your ideas and your actions.
Thank you, Mr. Koontz. Ms. Carnes.
So it still comes down to smart growth. Our county does need to grow, but we need to do it in a way that preserves the rural feel, and the reason why most of you moved here or have stayed here throughout your lives. I don't want to see Route 33 turn into the strip on 17 where Walmart and all the car dealerships are. So I don't want to see that. There are ways to do this. The other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that is retaining our young adults when they graduate from high school, or when they go off to college, and then, you know, are they gonna come home? Are they gonna come back to this community? Is there something for them to come back to? So we really need to balance that. You know, there's an argument out there that there just aren't jobs here, unless you wanna go work at the marina, and a lot of them kind of shut down and have lower business, and in the restaurants, same thing during the winter. We need to find jobs that our young adults can do to stay within the county. And by keeping our families together within the county, that will increase the revenue, and it increases the funding that the county will then have. It helps our small businesses. So it's a win-win all around. So how do we do that? Because we don't have huge corporations here. You know, you've got to go to Newport News, you've got to go to Richmond or West Point and work at the mill. You know, COVID hit. 26% of the population went remote, and they work remotely. At the end of 2021, I think they were saying that close to 22% of the American population will continue to work remotely on a permanent basis. So maybe we can implement a program within our schools to train students to be able to go into those remote jobs so that they can stay here after school, and that will grow our economy. Out of time.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Now for the 30 seconds, beginning first with Mr. Don Harris.
Thank you, Michael. As I said earlier, and as several people have said, I think you have to be very smart on how you're going to develop the county with economic growth, and not be pressured by the fact that you can do it. The question should be, should you do it, and how you should be able to do it with a cautious business approach. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers, please.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I'm working to make things possible, but once we've gotten over that hurdle and businesses want to come here, we need to stick to the comprehensive plan, preserve the rural character of Middlesex, keep it what it is for those that love it and want to come here, and just let that happen consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Mr. Koontz.
I'll just be specific. I'd like to see the public beach project get built in the next 2 or 3 years, but I'd also like to see us put in a drive-in movie theater or a concert venue. I think we have some spaces that would be wonderful for that, and people would come from surrounding counties to see our community, and so that's one of the ideas that I have that I've been talking with some of the private sector about.
Thank you. Mrs. Carnes, please.
Well, look at what just happened. We agree on something. I would absolutely agree that our community has the potential to have a successful concert venue. That can sound a little scary during COVID, but it will go away eventually. But I have also worked our crab feasts, our oyster festivals, the oyster roasts, and additional concerts that are in this community, and I think that's something that we need to look at.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. For our next question, we'll start with Katie Carnes, and then John Koontz, Don Harris, and Greg Chambers. And the question is, what are your ideas for broadening the tax base in Middlesex County? So what are your ideas for broadening the tax base in Middlesex County? Mrs. Carnes.
This actually goes right back to what I was just speaking about a few minutes ago. It would be the fact that inflation is taking a toll on our families, and many residents just can't survive on the wages that they have with the job options that they have here. A lot of people leave this community for work. They graduate high school. Not all of our students go to high school. It's actually a pretty low amount. I was surprised. I'm not saying it's bad. But they leave this area for jobs, or they leave for college, and then they don't come back. I would like to see the schools implement programs that will help. We have some programs that are dual enrollment classes. They can get some certifications, but I would like to try to work with the schools to implement a full associate's degree program within our school system. West Point is a prime example of this. Students, I have a very close friend of mine whose child has gone to West Point and has graduated. I believe he was able to go right into college as a junior. We can't do that in our schools right now, but we could. We need to try to implement programs and work together with the school board to be able to do that. And what that's going to allow us to do is keep our students here, get them the college education that they need right here in the county so that they can remain here in the county with their families. If we can keep our families together, our tax base will grow automatically, and it will be a natural transition. Not from people outside, it will be our homegrown increase.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Mr. Koontz.
The tax base is the total amount of things that can be subject to taxation by a tax authority. Things like income, properties, assets, consumption, transactions, other economic activity. I don't see a lot of opportunities for us to expand our tax base. We've already expanded it recently into cigarettes, which is a new item that we're taxing. A couple years ago, it was meals. It's not that we don't have enough things to tax. It's a question of how much should we be taxing the ones that we already have. We're a Dillon rule state, and so there aren't a lot of opportunities handed down to us from the state legislature where they say, okay, it's okay, you can tax this now. So when we say broadening the tax base, it's really saying what else can we tax? And I think we're not really looking to tax anything else, Pagovian or otherwise. It's just a matter of trying to keep the current rates low. There are some rates where there's been some very heated discussions on the Board of Supervisors about which rate should go up, which one should go down. Are we robbing Peter to pay Paul? But in terms of the actual taxes that we've levied, we're very similar to the surrounding counties, and there are limited opportunities to truly broaden the tax base.
Thank you, Mr. Koontz. Mr. Harris, please.
Well, if I can get my mask off. I think broadening it, I think John is somewhat right on the ability to broaden the tax base, although I do think that water and sewage will be a natural for the ability for potential businesses to come to the area. Also, maybe the potential for some entrepreneur opportunities for businesses that may want to come here. So I think we might be underestimating the opportunity for broadening the tax base. Our area is very well suited for people that want to retire here. Maybe some of y'all have. And I think that will be an opportunity as well as time goes by, people that want to move from a larger metropolitan area to come to Middlesex County, and hopefully the appeal for the county will be such that that can happen. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Chambers.
Thank you very much. I guess I don't really need to talk about growing our tax base through infrastructure. But one thing I did notice in looking through the numbers and preparing for today is a 3% population decline in the census period in Middlesex County. That is a disaster from a tax base perspective, and it's something that we need to turn around, okay? But I'm going to describe something, and if you recognize it as somebody with gray hair and about my age, please raise your hand, and I think we'll see a few hands go up as we go through this. I moved here and live on the water, and I have a boat, and that boat was bait for young people to come here and go fishing with me, okay? Yeah, there's one hand. We're getting there, okay? It hasn't worked out as well as I had hoped. We need the economic development that we need in this county needs to focus on making this a great place for people to live, raise children, and have grandchildren that want to visit, okay? I'm talking about economic development that focuses on tourism and what I call fun stuff, okay? Stuff to do on the weekends with your grandchildren. This is, we're not going to put a chip fab in Hartfield. We're not going to have a Walmart in Deltaville, okay? We're not going to have a solar factory in Urbana. We got to play to the natural strengths of this county. So I'd like to see us focus on doing things that make this a place that's attractive for a family to raise their children and for somebody to grow old and want to stay here for a very long time.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mrs. Carnes, please.
I'll pass.
John Koontz.
So I was more of a textbook definition of tax base in my mind that I gave earlier, but I agree with what Greg's saying in terms of those taxes that we are levying. If we can have more people paying them, then we don't have to pay as much. So that is one way to look at broadening a tax base as well. But realistically, I think what we really need to do is create the kind of businesses here, and there's not unlimited opportunity for this, but the kind of businesses that encourage recreation and enjoying the surrounding water and beaches.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
I agree. As I had said earlier, the Rappahannock River, the Chesapeake Bay is a big plus for our county where we live, and I think the more that we can promote that and maybe try to figure out ways to have young people stay in the county will be a success for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Chambers.
I think I mentioned earlier that I sit on the scholarship committee for Kiwanis. We basically find that we give out two kinds of scholarships. Kids that want to go to RCC go there for a few years, and they end up staying and growing in Middlesex. The kids that go to UVA, they don't tell me that they want to spend the rest of their life here, and we got to change that. We got to get good jobs in this county well above minimum wage that people are going to want to come here for.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Next question, we'll have it answered first by Don Harris, then Greg Chambers, then John Koontz, and Katie Carnes. The question is, what is your vision for the future of Middlesex County? And if you are elected, what would you do to achieve your vision? Now, repeat that. What is your vision for the future of Middlesex County? And if you are elected, what would you do to achieve your vision? So we'll start with Mr. Harris talking about your vision for the future of the county.
I again think that the county of Middlesex is positioned for a lot of things to happen. With the water and sewer, that's certainly going to be a challenge for all the residents of the county, and possibly how the county would particularly change. My vision, again, is to maintain the rural aspects of the county, which is a draw for people to come here and people that have lived here for a long time. In addition to that, I think that my vision would be how we can retain youth in the county, and what we can do to maybe entice businesses to come here as well. And other than that, I think that the county, I can help lead in those aspects and have a business aptitude of how it will be done to the best for the county residents, and what the hopefully the lower impact of what the cost will be to be able to do that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Chambers, please.
My vision for the future, you know, when I started this campaign, you look for words to describe what you want, and the word that kept coming to me was economic vibrancy, and the second word was fun, okay? But I want good schools. I want happy employees in those schools that inspire children the way Mr. Petroselli inspired me in high school and basically forced me to go to college. That's the kind of school system I want, one that inspires people. But the underpinning of the vision has always got to be to make things possible through infrastructure. But I want a vibrant economy, and I want to facilitate that through the work that we're doing today.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Next, Mr. Koontz, please.
My vision is to be able to watch the national news and think, well, we solved that problem here. We don't have that problem here. You know, whether it's coming out of COVID and wondering what kind of economy we're going to have after COVID, you know, I'd like for us to actually have remote employees encouraged to consider moving here, and I think that's happening. You know, in terms of our schools and watching on the national news these school board meetings where people are at each other's throats, I like to think we're building a community where we wouldn't talk to each other that way. We're small enough to still remember that we're going to run into each other at Hurd's or at the Deltaville Market, and we have some respect for each other. I like to think that we're really focused on our schools and that we're a community that's changing. You know, change is a scary word, but in the last 4 years, we significantly raised our teachers' salaries, our law enforcement salaries, and it was done transparently, and there's still more to do. We're talking about emergency services tonight. We need to be a place that's just not solving for low taxes, but we're solving for a vibrant community that is supported. And that means it's supporting our teachers, our law enforcement officers, holding them accountable. When we see George Floyd, what that makes me think is, what are we doing in our community? And we're working on getting body cameras in place. That's not the only solution. We're also working on getting our social services department and our law enforcement department to work together. We're doing suicide prevention training with those different agencies and the Community Services Board. Because we're so small, we can do these things. We don't just have to look helplessly at the national news and say, wow, I wish there was some place that was better. We're already starting to be better. And we're gonna start making the news if we have that collective perspective on what we can do because we're so small.
Thank you, Mr. Koontz. Mrs. Carnes.
So, I love our community, but I want to be positive that our future holds a vibrant economy and top-notch schools. And that's going to take community involvement. That's going to take all of our residents to stay involved, to do what they can to make that happen. We need to take a look at the efficiency of the Board of Supervisors meetings to see how we can move the meetings from 3 p.m. to at least 5:30 p.m. or 6, to foster the residents' ability to attend the meetings. If every other county can do it, Middlesex can do it. I've spoken with board members from Matthews, Lancaster, Gloucester, King William, and New Kent. None of them have meetings prior to 6 p.m., and they voiced serious concerns about conducting business before 6 because a significant number of residents are working and can't attend at that time. John Koontz did say in his candidate forum 4 years ago that this was something he wanted to change, but at his first board meeting, he actually seconded the motion to keep the meeting times the same. There's no reason why we can't increase efficiency in our meetings to fall within a reasonable time frame. This will increase participation within our community. At work, one of my main roles is SOP analysis and putting forth measures to increase efficiency while maintaining the highest possible client benefit. When done properly, increasing efficiency does not mean lowering the quality of what you do, but it does allow you to be more productive in a shorter period of time. This should always result in a higher satisfaction rate. In this case, the satisfaction rate would be calculated off of our residents.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Now for the 30-second responses, beginning with Mr. Harris, please.
I'm good, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Same.
Mr. Koontz?
One of the things I learned in the last 4 years is that I am not a king, and there are 4 other people on your board, and if you decide to blow one of them up in your first meeting, it's going to be a long 4 years.
Thank you. Mrs. Carnes?
Well, I do understand that, and I was actually told by one of the current board members, not Mr. Koontz, that I would be standing on an island alone if I am elected and I attempt to change the meeting times. I'm okay standing on that island alone if it means representing the best interests and the involvement of our community.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Now, candidates having been in your shoes before, I know that you'll be pleased to hear the next comment I'm going to make, is this is the last question you have of the evening before the closing statements or closing comments. So this question is, do you think the time currently set for the general meeting of the Board of Supervisors should be changed to allow for greater attendance and input by the community? So, does anyone need me to repeat it? Okay.
Katie?
Well, go ahead. Don Harris.
Oh, I thought I was first on the last question.
Well-
Was I not?
Well, you were, weren't you? Let's see.
That's okay.
Well,
Way to go.
I'm just doing as instructed, sorry. Well, we can go
Oh, I can do that.
We can change it around.
No, that's okay. Would you repeat the question, Mike?
Do you think the time currently set for the general meeting of the Board of Supervisors should be changed to allow for greater attendance and input by the community?
Thank you, Michael. The meeting times for the Board of Supervisors, it for sure is difficult for people to make it at 3 o'clock. The last few meetings that I've attended, they not only have the 3 o'clock meeting, but they have additional meetings that start at 7. That's all fine, but the meat of what happens in the meeting typically occurs at the early meeting. I would be in favor for some sort of discussion on a possible change of the time frame to allow more citizens' involvement to be able to be at the meetings for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Chambers.
We live in a complex world, and everybody's got calendars that pretty much run 24 hours a day with time zones, and the world is different from the 9-to-5 world that I started my career in. So, I think we just need to get used to the fact that it's hard to do this. That said, I would prefer to have our meetings in a time when more people can attend, and that is the evening. So, frankly, I don't know the reasoning that makes that difficult, but I'd like to see that happen. But perhaps more importantly, I'd like to see us change the content of the meetings. We have a thing called a consent agenda, followed by about an hour of boring reports that I'm capable of reading, okay? I would like to find a way to get the meeting down to an hour, and if it's not an hour, have us spend time, a lot of time, focusing on important issues. I don't need to hear about what VDOT is doing. I hope nobody from VDOT is in the audience, okay? But we do so many routine reports. I know how to read, okay? The meeting package is sometimes 200, 300 pages long, but somebody on the Board of Supervisors should go through it and read it, and I do every time. I won't say I read every page because a lot of it's just boring routine stuff, but let's find a way to shorten the meetings, make them more effective, make them more interesting, and that'll go a lot farther towards getting people to want to attend than moving the hour of the meeting, okay? I'll move heaven and earth when I want to be at something. We got to create the demand, and that's why I want to structure the meetings differently.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mrs. Carnes.
So I'll kind of build on what I brought up a few minutes ago. Efficiency is the key. Efficiency, again, does not mean cutting the quality of what you're doing. It means taking steps, analyzing the procedures of what you're doing to make them more effective so that you get a higher quality product out of it. In speaking with these other counties, they have one meeting. It's not, what we have right now is a 3 p.m. business meeting, and he can speak on this a little bit better than I can, but it's a business meeting. They talk about a lot of different topics, you know, anything that's kind of in front of them. There are other things they're doing. I'm not on the board. They go into a closed session if needed. They take a break, they have dinner, they come back, and then they have a public hearing at 7 o'clock. Part of my issue and why I'm sitting here is when the meetings are split like that, our residents can attend the 7 o'clock meeting, but they can't be there at 3 o'clock when the rest of the business is being handled. Part of my personal concern is that Mr. Koontz is there for the business part of the meeting. He doesn't come back for the public hearings and the public comment, and you can't lead that way. That's not, you know, the community, them being involved. I've been there to actually speak to him, and he wasn't there. He was there at the earlier meeting, but you have to be present at the meetings that your residents are able to attend. So I think we need to move the business meeting and move the whole thing later, and we can increase the efficiency of the meetings so that everybody can be involved with all of their supervisors.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Mr. Koontz.
I would echo Greg's comments in terms of the efficiency of the meetings, but it takes 5 people to agree on this, and 3 of us are in the room right now for currently serving, and I think hopefully the other 2 out there have heard this discussion, and maybe there is an opportunity to make our meetings more efficient, as Greg suggests. But I'm not sure that the time is really the issue. You would think this would be a heavily attended event. There's 62 of you in the audience. There's somebody up in the booth. There's 2 people back here. There was a sheriff's deputy out in front, and there's 20 people online. This was publicized. It was in the newspaper. You're not going to get 500 people at these meetings. There's no magic hour. I've tried to encourage people to come to the meetings. I've encouraged the board to publicize the meeting and film it, and during COVID times we did. And just to speak to the allegation that I'm not a representative, the 7 o'clock meeting is often a public hearing on something that's way down county that's going to be unanimously voted on. Not all the time, but you actually have an opportunity to go and miss some of those. And I have missed some of those because between 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock on an average Tuesday, I have 4 children at 3 different schools in this community that have after-school activities, and I have a day job. It's really easy to come in here and say, I'm going to make every meeting for all time. But before I ran for this position, I went to 11 or 12 meetings in a row before I was on the board so that I could understand how the board meetings worked. Katie, have you been to more than 2, 3?
And let's not ask questions, please.
Rhetorically, I'm asking.
Anything further, Mr. Koontz?
I think that covered it.
Thank you. Now for the 30 seconds, starting with Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Michael. I don't know. I start my day at 6 a.m., so that'd be fine with me to have a meeting then. But other than that, I think, maybe the county can do a little bit better job on surveying what the residents think is an appropriate time for meetings, and maybe look at that. It would create better communication with the Board of Supervisors and the residents of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
I'll do whatever will work for the majority of people. My calendar is very flexible. I really want things to be transparent. I have learned through my water authority experience how difficult it is to get community participation in things. We got to work hard on getting this right.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mrs. Carnes?
I too had to answer the John's question. Yes, I have. I too have 4 children in my home in multiple counties. 2 of my children attend school in Gloucester. 2 of them attend school here in Middlesex. 1 of them is several hours away. I don't care if 500 people will show up at the meeting if we move the time, or if we don't move the time. I care about the one resident who wants to show up, needs to show up, and can't at 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Mr. Koontz?
All set?
Thank you. All right, so now we are going to go on to the candidates being given 2 minutes to give any closing remarks that they would like. And we're going to go in order of Greg Chambers, Don Harris, Kitty Carnes, and John Koontz.
All right, thank you. I appreciate everybody's time and taking the time to be here. It's a very important process. When I didn't take any notes on what to say in my final statement, but I'll just make the observation that what you've heard tonight from most of us is in the realm of what I would call strategy, the long-term vision for the county, the things we need to do, the way we need to tweak things. But the truth is that there's a strategic level, and it's easy for everyone to say we want excellence in schools and we want to support our firefighters. Budgets don't happen on a strategic plane. They happen on a tactical plane. We have to make decisions in the short run that add up to the right decisions in the long run. Balancing strategy and taxes and tactics is what we need to do. We enter this budget year with the knowledge that last year we balanced our budget by drawing down our fund balance by $1.3 million. That is, we ran a deficit for this budget year of 1.3. If we do nothing, we are looking at either further erosion of the fund balance or a tax increase. This has to be the year for tactical excellence. It's going to take penny pinching out the wazoo. We're going to need to be smart and still fight the hard battles to keep the vision there for the future and for the long term, okay? And that's where, frankly, as a candidate, my experience in business, as a leader, both in business and in government, will serve me and hopefully you well. And I really think we need to focus on what we need to do for the citizens in the next cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you all for coming tonight. If some of you are like me, I'm getting pretty close to my bedtime. And I hope it was beneficial to you to hear everybody speak tonight. If you still have questions for me particularly, I'm sure you can find somebody that has my phone number. Otherwise, I have some information on the table out there that has my phone number on it as well. And if you'd like to call me anytime to talk about anything we talked about tonight or any other questions, please feel free to do that. Other than that, I will represent Middlesex County to the very best of my ability. I will be fiscally responsible and provide practical judgment for sound business sense. Thank you all, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next, Mrs. Carnes, please.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and participating. It's important to me that the community is involved in anything that has to do with their families and their homes and their places of business. I know I have an incredibly strong personality. I am a problem solver, but I know that I am the best fit for this position because of my determination to think outside of the box in a way that will increase our efficiency, cut our costs, and increase the bottom line impact and benefit to all of our residents. It's the residents that matter here. We need representation. It's not just my opinion. The numbers and the facts speak for themselves. We need a representative that is going to represent our voices and listen to our opinions and be present to be able to be involved in everything that has to do with those decisions. So I ask that you dig a little deeper into what we're actually experiencing and what you want to happen. What do you want to see out of your representative? And after you've made that decision and you're confident with it, go out and vote on November 2nd. We can't be dissatisfied with anything in our community if we don't stand up and speak, if we don't go to our polling location and vote for what we want. Your opinion means nothing if you don't speak up. So that's what it's going to take. And thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes. Mr. Koontz.
Thanks to all 62 of you for coming, and for the 20 people online and the sheriff's deputy, and thank you to everybody on this stage for putting this together. This is what we have to do as a community, and we have to do it every 2 years. We have to really analyze what we're getting out of our elected officials, and it can be painful to be put under the magnifying glass. But it's necessary, and I'll take this feedback, and I'll certainly think on it and see if I can do better in the next 4 years. But you know, at some point these terms end for all of us, and if this is the end of my time serving you, I promise you I'll be still engaged and involved in the community and encourage everyone to do the same. And thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, candidates, very much. Just a couple of other notes. I want to thank the school system for allowing us to be here tonight. We thank the audience for appearing.
We thank you all for coming this evening on behalf of the NAACP Middlesex branch, the Koontz Club, the Lions Club, and the Rotary Club. We would like to thank you all for attending tonight's forum. We would like to thank the candidates, and we would like to thank the Commonwealth Attorney, Mr. Michael T. Hurd. This would not have been possible without everybody's participation. And again, if you have not participated in early voting, you have gotten a lot of information to make a very good decision. Please vote, and if you don't vote early, please be at the polls on November 2nd. Thank you all for attending. Be safe going home.
That sounds like a plan.
Thank you. Sorry. I know I can be a little aggressive sometimes, but I appreciate
Greg?
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Photo one?
Yeah, very well.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks to the club. Thanks. Nice seeing you, Katie.
with that. Nice seeing you too.
Yep.
Fresh hand sanitizer.